Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video is my July reading wrap up. In July I read 8 books. There was 2 5-star books, 3 4-star and 3 3-star. And the first book in this wrap up is Unmasked by R. St. Clair. R. St. Clair is a fellow booktuber and horror tuber, and once I knew that she was an author as well, I picked up this one of her books, Unmasked. It kind of appealed to me at the time, and it is actually quite a good read. The plot is about a famous actress who organises a family reunion. She hasn't seen her siblings in quite a while, and they meet at their old vacation home, where a tragedy happened when they were younger and their parents had died. Her brothers and sisters were surprised to see her. They hadn't seen her for a few years, and she looked incredibly young when they first saw her. It's not until the siblings start dying one by one that they realise something is afoot. This is a good story. My only complaint is it's rather short, but it is a good read and will keep you fixed all the way through. R. St. Clair could have gone into more backstory of some of the siblings, but that wouldn't have really given us more for the plot, but would have brought up the other characters in the book a little bit more. It is a horror, and I would recommend anyone who is a fan of horror to pick this book up. I gave this book 4 stars on Goodreads, though it could really be worth 4.5 or even 5 stars, particularly if you like short reads. The next book I read was The Passengers by John Marrs. The Passengers is set a few years into our future and is located in the UK. And at this time, all cars have been made self-driving. No one needs to drive anywhere. The cars will automatically go wherever you want them to go. Though the system is supposed to be hack-proof, on one morning 8 cars have been hacked and taken over, and are all aimed at one location, and the hacker threatens to kill all of them bar one. On that morning, a committee has been brought together to go over a accident report to basically to say that it was a human error which caused a particular accident on a particular day, and that the car wasn't at fault, that its sensors chose to do the right thing to cause the least amount of damage, even though the accident was fatal. The group is headed by the minister basically in charge of the self-driving cars, and the hacker wants him basically to admit the truth that the cars aren't as perfect as the government claim them to be. This is a really good thriller, and I've given it 4 stars. If you like thrillers, then yes, it's definitely one to pick up. It's not too difficult to read, and the action is pretty constant, and it drives all the way through to the end. The next book is The Present Hes Missing by Bill Clinton and James Patterson. I've given this 5 stars. This is a pretty good thriller. If you like reading James Patterson's books, like I do, you kind of know the type of format that he writes in. I don't know if Bill Clinton wrote much of the book. I think he was more a kind of technical advisor on the life of what the president has to go through day to day. It's a full, enjoyable read. It's about the president at the time. Some international incident is going down, and he's having to keep it a secret from the other parts of the government. And basically he kind of has to go on his own and try and uncover the plot and basically stop it. I enjoy these type of thrillers. There's nothing mentally taxing, and they're kind of fun, you know. And if you're a big action movie fan, this is worth a read if you don't read much. It reads like an action film, and I would not be surprised if this is adapted into a movie pretty soon. The next book is The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. This is one of his Sherlock Holmes novels. This is an okay story, but a bit of a slog to get through, to be honest. That's why I've only given it 3 stars. It doesn't really kick in until probably the last quarter, maybe the last fifth of the book. I don't know whether Anthony Horowitz is trying to do a Arthur Conan Doyle impression or not, but it seems like it does seem like he's trying to, and it doesn't really come off that well. I basically picked up this book because I liked the edition. It's pretty cool. It's like this, the front and the back. Pretty nice paperback edition. If you like Anthony Horowitz or you're interested in his books, there are other books of his that are better, and I would only really read this if you're basically just intrigued into his take really on Sherlock Holmes. So like I said, 3 stars. I wouldn't give it any more than that. The next book I read is for James Herbert, and it's The Fog. I liked this edition, this is why I picked it up. I've read a number of James Herbert books, and this is, I believe, his second novel. One of his other books I've read, The Dark, and this, The Fog, are very, very kind of similar in their kind of plot, but where The Dark is kind of supernatural based, where the dark itself makes people, turns people mad, makes them homicidal and suicidal. In this, it is more naturalistic. A kind of chemical fog is created by a government department, and is kind of like hidden underground, and an accident kind of releases the gas into this yellow fog, which drives people mad, makes them homicidal and suicidal, but also affects animals as well. At the beginning, a herd of cattle kind of destroy their farmer. I do enjoy James Herbert. I've read a number of his books, but I've only given this one 3 stars. I might read it again, probably won't, but there are other ones of James Herbert that are more to my liking. But if you like if you like the dark and you kind of want to read his kind of first version of the story, this isn't too bad to pick up and read. And the final 3 books, all by the same author. They are the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, and End of Watch by Stephen King. I'm going to hold this one up because this one is my favourite of the 3. Mr. Mercedes, this is the one I give 5 stars to. It is a really good story. Stephen King has mentioned it in interviews, kind of how this kind of story came about. He read a story about a woman whose husband had been having an affair, and she tracked the woman he was having an affair with down to a kind of a job interview group thing at a McDonald's, where she drove her car into everyone that was there and killed a number of them. And he kind of saw that, and it developed basically what he thought was going to be a short story and turned into a trilogy of books. Like I said, this is the one of the trilogy I like the most. It's basically about Bill Hodges, who is the police officer who was on the Mr. Mercedes case. He retired without closing it, and he's retired. I think he's been retired about 6 months. He's bored with his life, watching daytime TV and thinking about killing himself. I believe Stephen King called it blue suicide, where a policeman, once he retires, basically can't think of anything else to do with his life, and so wants to end it. And Mr. Mercedes, Brady Hartsfield, sends Bill a mocking letter, basically trying to convince him to kill himself, but it has the opposite effect and basically kickstarts Bill into finding out who Mr. Mercedes really is and tracking him down. This is a really good story, and even if it just ended with just this one, it would have been really, really good. However, with the second one, with the Finders Keepers, I didn't like this one as much. It's basically a completely different story, but it kind of bridges the time period between the first one and the first book and the last book. This one has really nothing to do with Brady Hartsfield at all, and this is the my least favourite of the books. This is one I give 3 stars to, and it's only really worth reading if you're reading the entire story. And with the last one, End of Watch, it's now back to Brady Hartsfield, and basically the aftermath of where he was left at the end of Mr. Mercedes, and not to give any spoilers away on basically on his attempts to get back at Bill. Like I said, these books are good. If you're reading them as a series, I'd give the series an average. I've given the series an average collection of 4 stars, and if you like Stephen King, though they're not horror, they are good crime thrillers, and they are worth reading. And along with the, a more recent book, The Outsider, which kind of carries on with another character from this trilogy into that book. So there you go. And that's the end of the wrap up for July's reading. Have you read any of those books? What do you think of them? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Remember to like, share, and to subscribe to the channel. And I will see you again next time.